What's going on, guys?
Yeah.
Welcome to the Cinefanatics. We're doing the Bad Batch breakdown. My name is Chris Adams, and as always, I'm joined by fan favorite Adam Witt.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm too humble to mention it myself, but yes, I do have some fans.
And they consider you a favorite.
It's nothing I said. They just came up with it all on their own.
Oh, man. I am super, super excited to get into these episodes. These are some good Star Wars. I feel like we say that every week.
We're making some progress in this show. Yeah.
Yeah, we got some great stuff, some great connectivity. Guys, we want to thank you for joining us if you're watching along. Any questions, comments you have while we're going here, feel free to hit up that streamlabs.com/cinefanatics. Great place to insert a question and make sure that we see it. And we'll just jump right in here, I guess. We got some great stuff like interconnected universe stuff happening here in these two episodes, and I'm super pumped for it.
I hopped on Twitter briefly before I watched the episodes, and I saw some clamoring about some old favorites showing up, and I was like, finally, Dengar is showing up in the show. I was wrong. However, we do have some favorites here. We do have some characters we wanted to see.
Yeah. This is a great one because we're talking about a show that takes place between Clone Wars and Rebels.
Yeah.
And so it didn't really occur to me, and it's weird that this didn't occur to me. It didn't occur to me even when we had young Kanan at the beginning of this show, at the beginning of the season, that we could get other young versions of Rebels characters.
Yeah.
So I was like, why did I not catch on that this could happen?
Yeah. No, I mean, you never know. Well, you know what? These shows are so full of great, I'm geeking out at like the fact that OG Hammerhead shows up in the bar run by Rhea Perlman, so I mean, I get geeked out about all this stuff. So I'm easily distracted. I'm so distracted that I never sit down and go, who else is going to show up? I'm just like, oh my gosh, there's a bar is run by a boss, and I'll geek out about that for an entire episode. But yeah. But here we have the Syndulla family.
Yeah. And this is great, too, because the first thought I had of this first episode, so we're talking about episodes, I believe, 11 and 12, this first one being Devil's Deal.
Devil's Deal.
So in this first one, first of all, guys, if for some reason you haven't watched either one of these, I might have already given away, but we're doing spoilers. We're talking about spoilers here. So if you haven't watched these episodes, go watch the episodes and come back and join us. But otherwise, you've been warned.
We're not a bad way to find out what happens in these episodes, and they're still pretty exciting. I mean, we can break out the action figures and the stick figures and try and run through some battles and stuff, but you're still gonna catch a lot more if you actually go watch the show.
It's true. What I liked about this episode, though, is that the Bad Batch were barely a part of it.
Yeah, kind of nuts, right? Because it's like Star Wars is bigger than any individual character. You can have a whole character story, for example, Luke Skywalker, but Star Wars is always bigger than that. There's always things going on in the background, and I thought that was pretty cool. The Bad Batch is barely in this episode. I was like, oh yeah, of course. Star Wars has got a lot to say outside of the point of view of these characters,
Yeah, and it caught me off guard because I felt like we've done this kind of thing before where we had like an episode start with an imperial occupation of a planet, and so. Yeah. We're starting off here. We're talking about being on Ryloth, so you have the Twi'leks on this planet, and I was thinking, okay, cool. We're getting another setup to the story. The Bad Batch are going to sweep in here and kind of do some stuff, and the intro to this episode ended up lasting a lot longer than I thought. It was the whole episode.
Yeah. Yeah, right. It's a total two-parter, and I think that this seems to be kind of the format. And then they'll do kind of a one-parter adventure, and we'll get another two-parter down the line. But this one was such a two-parter because this one just sets up what's going to happen in the next episode. But unlike the other planet, which was occupied, and I think I wrote it down here because they did mention it. But the other planet that we saw occupied, and that the former ruler of that had to give over here's your new benevolent rulers. It's been nice being your king. I know you all liked me. But here's these guys in white suits. Nothing to fear here. Don't worry about it, guys. We've seen that handover before, and I loved seeing it again, particularly with a species that we're much closer to and a family that we absolutely know. Because the other one, maybe that's a reference from a Clone Wars episode. I don't know. Or maybe that's original to this series, that planet that we saw this happen with before. But it was pretty cool, like seeing it on Twi'leka. Sorry, Ryloth.
Twi'leka.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great because we kind of introduced to we were reintroduced to Orn Frita. So the senator of Ryloth, who is apparently, I don't know if you've noticed this, he's got a huge fan community on the internet, and they just absolutely love this guy. I guess I haven't really dived into it too much, but I've seen like a lot of like clamor over Twitter going, "Oh no, Orn Frita," and all this stuff. So I don't know how this character has such a huge fan base.
The very first thing I thought was, oh my god, I haven't seen Orn Frita since, I'm sure he's in some Clone Wars episodes that I'm forgetting, but obviously he's an OG. Well, secondary OG, I guess. So the prequel trilogy, Orn Frita is all over those. And the first thing after we had seen a major character, we saw who Ton Wee died in an early episode. Is it Ton Wee?
Yeah. Ton Wee, yeah.
Ton Wee died. So as soon as I saw Orn Frita, I was like, "I'll kill that guy, man." He's like, who needs him?
Take him out.
Yeah, if anybody can go away from the original, the prequel trilogy, I'm like, yeah, Orn Frita. You can take that guy down because he was,
Look,
whatever.
Not everyone is going to last forever. We might as well see the end for some of these characters. Might as well. But this was interesting to me, though, because we were reintroduced to the Syndulla family as well here. And we know Cham, I believe, he first appeared in the Clone Wars series.
Yeah.
So, like, they've had adventures on Ryloth during the Clone Wars before. Mm-hmm. And Cham was a part of the freedom fighters against. I think they were against the Separatists at that
Separatists, point. Right? Like he had. This is like he is a military leader. Like he led them out of war to this period of peace, and then everything's messed up now.
Right. Exactly. So they were always hunting down peace for the planet. So that's one thing. Like I haven't seen those episodes in a while. It's been a while since I did the full rewatch through the Clone Wars. But
yeah, I
know that the Cham was always like a huge freedom fighter for Ryloth, pushing against the Separatists, and to see him kind of it was interesting to see his character kind of bow to the Empire here, because that feels, well, at least what we know of the Empire, that feels counterproductive to what his character would actually want and be doing. But the way he described it is, we finally have peace on this planet. So I was like, I guess that makes sense if you're looking at it from just a specific point of view. But I thought that whole thing was interesting with his character too.
But again, the thing that remains exciting about this series is when in episode 4, you come in, obviously the story is in mid-story, as many Star Wars stories are. The idea of the Imperial occupation, this was a bit lost to me as a kid. I'm in Star Wars for many reasons. The military, the history of fascism on Earth was not one of them. But it's an amazing opportunity to get that exact feel, because we know where we're going, obviously. We know much of the future that happens in Star Wars. But the idea of watching now friendly characters that we've gotten to know through other things like Rebels and Clone Wars, to watch them bridge the gap with their despair and the military occupation, which we would just come into fully formed in episode 4, is amazing to see. You're like, it adds so much. Episode 4 gets better with every episode of The Bad Batch, and that's already a perfect movie, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Everything that we see, like, going forward, like, it's I think, not even just The Bad Batch, like every bit of like show, animation, everything just enriches the universe even more so. So I'm following with you there. But what I liked here is that, so we were reintroduced to Cham, we were reintroduced to the Syndulla family, and at that point I'm thinking, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute, this is the right timing, because we're still talking about pre-Rebels, but not too far pre-Rebels. And so I'm thinking, are we going to get to see Hera here?
And sure indeed enough. You are.
Sure enough, we had Hera.
Yeah, Hera Syndulla, the pilot of the Ghost, and Chopper, one of my favorite droids. It's really hard to make a new type of droid, an interesting new droid. That was one of the great accomplishments of Rebels. Is like Chopper's unlike any droid we've seen before. It's and so it's great to have Chopper back. Oh my gosh, yeah.
He has such a unique personality.
Oh yeah, and he's a little less grumpy. What's interesting? He's a young Chopper as well. Like Hera, is it Hera? No,
Hera.
Hera. Yeah, Hera Sindel.
Yeah.
She's a young Hera, but Chopper is a young Chopper. He's not quite as grumpy. He's still, but he's a little more R2-D2, like run into the action and not complaining, and here to save the day a little in a few ways too. More in the next episode, but
right. Yeah. I loved it. I loved the fact that we got to see these two back. Again, it didn't occur to me that that this would even be a possibility, which. Again, makes no sense because we saw young Kanan before, so why wouldn't we see young Hera too if we had the possibility?
That's 10 episodes ago now, though. So I mean, they're really like how many characters that we know have returned. So this is a huge one. This is what you think you'd start off right off the bat with,
right? And what I liked about this is that again we're staying with the Syndulas, we're staying with Ryloth here in this story. We're not catching up with our Bad Batch. We don't know what they're up to. We don't know what they're doing. They're off somewhere else, and we see was he the general? The other Twi'lek, I forget his name.
Yeah, I was trying to write down more. General, hold on, Gobi. Yeah.
Yep. So he's going off on a Nerdchronic says, I like hearing young Hera's space French accent. That is true. Like, I don't remember her having an accent in Rebels. It could be I haven't watched Rebels in a while, but I don't remember her having like a huge accent.
I don't either. There was something slight that's been emphasized that she's clearly lost some of this, but I think now if I go back and watch Rebels, I'm like, oh, okay, I'll probably hear it. Yeah, I don't know if it's the same voice. It sounds like a different voice.
It does for sure. Anyway, I like this because we have Gobi's going off, and he's completely against the Empire. Obviously, he is like, again, we see the different parts of the universe while the Bad Batch are doing their adventures, where different pockets are starting to rise up a little bit and become what we'll know as the rebellion later on. Yeah. This is just another one of those little pockets with Gobi going off and going, I don't agree with this Imperial occupation. I'm going to sneak around and we're going to get some weapons and we're going to fight. We're going to fight back here. And he brings Hera along, which is probably not great for a young Hera to be traveling along on such a risky thing, but
we're watching all of her entries entries to adventure. She wants to learn how to fly. He takes her along on a gun running mission. Because once he realized something's going on there, he's like, well, I gotta wait to get some guns, and it turns out that Sid sends the Bad Batch to do some gun running to this really cool planet that we only see for a second in this episode. But like, it's just there's so much Star Wars in every inch of these shows, but they're going to land on some random planet with some amazing moons and stuff and do their little gun deal, gun running, and that's all you ever see of that planet. But yeah, she gets to do some gun running. I mean, we are building up to the rebellion, so it's really cool that a young Hera is like, oh, so this is gun running and this is flying ships. Okay.
Yeah. It's cool to see those little pieces of what like starts clicking in her mind that we'll know later on that really take shape, take form, and make her like this big time leader as a part of the rebellion, in the future. It's neat to see those things kind of come together right here in this episode.
And a cool ship too. They took they make no thing of like, they never go, oh, look how awesome this ship is in Star Wars. But just like that, you're like, what is this awesome ship that he's going on this gun running mission with? I've never seen anything like it. Actually, it was very different from most Star Wars ships, actually. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, They're always introducing like something like new here and there, and I love like the design just continues to like unfold and carry on, and they just continue to make new things, and it's like, oh, that fits perfectly with what you've done before. I love it.
I know, of course. It's like, oh, it's the most amazing ship ever. It's like, nope, that's all you get to see. Now you got to go to a guidebook or something. That's the way it's always been with Star Wars. Like, who's that guy with the hammerhead in the background? It's like, you're gonna have to go check some trading cards to get a better look at him.
Go hop on Wikipedia. You'll figure it out.
Yeah, or buy trading cards back in 1977.
But yeah, back then, yeah. So they go. There's not even like a whole lot to say about the Bad Batch here. They kind of show up, drop off the weapons. I know that Omega has like a little bit of a interaction with Hera, but outside of that,
oh yeah. Well, that was a cool thing too. Is that they're almost the same age. So like the idea of like, not even the whole time Omega's been, their sidekick, this little kid along for the mission and stuff like that. But then you're like, oh, she's the same age as some of the characters that we know that are going to be involved in the rebellion in Rebels or whatever. So you're like, oh, Omega is going to be around at the time of Rogue One doing something, It's pretty cool.
Right. And Eric says she lost it. It comes out a little bit in the episode where she argues with her father.
Oh. So I'm going to be rewatching some of these big time because this has really kickstarted like, all right, I got to rewatch Clone Wars. I got to rewatch Bad Batch because now they're going to get even more rewarding. Just like Star Wars does this amazing trick over and over, which Marvel has kind of copied. More rewarding with each rewatch.
Yeah, and just if you know the stuff that came before, it well, then you start picking up on all these little intricate things. Yeah, it's so good. But yeah, I enjoyed this. So I enjoyed the interaction between Hera and Omega, and that makes me wonder if I think that reintroduces the idea that we see Omega later on at some point. We're not, obviously we don't see her in Rebels because, Rebels is already done, but they've been talking about, there's been like rumors of like a Rebels sequel series. Now, I don't know if that's supposed to be just the live action Ahsoka series that's coming or if they're actually wanting to do an animated sequel series to Rebels. Either way, there's so much room for Omega to pop up.
I mean, if they do an Ahsoka series, it's not going to be Clone Wars era. It's going to be a later era, and probably not the Mandalorian era, unless they're doing live action, and then it probably is. But if it's not, and it's animated, then I would guarantee that that's happening during the timeline of Rebels, which would be... And come on. It's just a matter of time before Omega has the Force. Come on.
Exactly. I mean, let's be honest.
Star Wars has proven over and over that you can tell an entire story without ever referencing the Force or seeing a lightsaber, and Star Wars still works on that level. You can follow Han Solo all day, and that's good for me. I don't need to see a lightsaber. Or you can not follow a rogue type and just go pure Jedi. That's good too. The mix of the two, obviously quite acceptable. But it's at some point Omega's gonna. She's a little Jedi. I think the whatever they mixed her Omega DNA with, something in there. It might have been, maybe it was Baby Yoda. Maybe it was Grogu. I don't know.
There's a world where I think it's possible. Yeah. I mean, mixed Omega with a little bit of Alpha. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Nice. For you Bible fans.
Exactly.
We did get a convoy attack here, which is fun because we've seen that in Mando, and that is a high adventure. There's all these high adventure formats that Star Wars is emulating. There's dogfights, obviously, and things like that. But we saw a great convoy fight in Mandalorian, and here we saw the rescue of Hera, who was taken. And by the way, near and dear to the Star Wars fans' heart, when they pick up. Because she gets arrested for and tried off screen for treason, which they report to Hera's parents. Like, oh, she's been tried for treason and is taken to jail. It's like, oh my god. They're like, what? You're like, yeah, welcome to fascism, guys. That's how it works. Also, the very fascist machinations at the top of this of like, shoot this guy, blame it on that person, and boom, that's it. I mean, it's. The way that Star Wars was a comment on Nixon, this is very much any fascist leanings in this country. It's like, That's how it works, guys. That's how it works right there. Anything feeling familiar where something was blamed on someone that wasn't quite right, and we got to give up our freedoms for that? Anyone, anything resonating here?
It's like it's poetic to real life or something. Huh, who knew?
Yeah. And people will say, I don't want politics in my Star Wars, and it means they've never watched Star Wars.
You've never seen Star Wars, and it's always been politics.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want my Jar Jars, for the kids.
Just give me some Jar Jars.
Yeah, no, this. Oh, go ahead.
No. If you had anything to say on the convoy thing.
I thought it was interesting, just the setup, because I mean, obviously you have like Cham come in for the rescue, like they were threatening his daughter and everything, and so he's gonna come in and be like, Imperial or not, I don't care what's going on. You're threatening my daughter. I'm coming in for the rescue.
Right. You mess with my daughter, that's it. Like, we could talk politics all day long, but you're going to take my daughter hostage? Are you going to take her to prison, to a work camp somewhere? Yeah. No, you're going to see a very different, that's how rebellion starts. And there's even a line in there, maybe it's in the next episode, but one of the clone that's in this one, Hauser,
yeah.
Yeah, another reason to go back and watch Clone Wars is like, I feel like I know Hauser, but I couldn't name anything adventure that was with Hauser. But
I don't remember seeing Hauser myself, so
okay,
I don't know.
Maybe it could be a new one, but I feel like I knew that name. But he's like, if you just start picking up innocent people, again, I think this is a line in the next one, but he's telling who's the Imperial that's running the whole show here, Rampart. If you just go start picking up random people, it's like you're going to get a rebellion way fast. I mean, he's really smart, actually. It's like, guys, I know you want. He was trying not to say, you guys are total fascists, but he's like, guys, I know you want to do your little fascist thing, but as a military officer, let me just tell you, this method you're about to do is going to cause you an episode 4. Let me just say that. You're going to get an episode 4 out of this if you're not careful. He tried to play calm before he decided to basically join the rebellion.
Yeah. I like this too, also because like we see some more great character development also for Orn Frita, which this guy is just the biggest flip-flopper I've ever seen.
This is why kill him.
Yeah. He's not loyal to anyone or anything. He's whatever will keep him, I guess, in office, and whatever will keep him, in his position of power and whatnot. But I just to see him like, he was like such a supporter of Cham before, but then just in a moment's notice, Cham's turning on us, get him. And it's like,
yeah, God. And you couldn't expect more from a guy who was a part of the Free Republic and then ended up supporting Palpatine. I mean, I don't know if he completely supported him, but he didn't build no rebellion while he could have. There's a lot of parody of politicians in the prequel trilogy as well, and Orn Frita is not without being it doesn't slip away from being a parody of one in some ways,
So at this point, are Cham and Rex the only characters to show up in all 3 animated shows?
Oh, very good question.
Until we see Vader and Ahsoka in this show. Well, yeah, and Tarkin. It's technically Tarkin.
True. Yeah, I forgot about that too. But yeah.
I mean, well, actually, no. We have seen at least a hologram of Palpatine. So technically, Palpatine's been in all 3.
Wow. Yeah. He's not a character in this, though. I take his point.
Yeah.
Like active characters. Okay. Well, having said that would indicate that Hauser. Well, even if Hauser, I guess he's saying in all 3. So yeah, Hauser just would have been, if he did show up, he would have only been in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, I meant to look that up. I wanted to find out what episodes if he was in Clone Wars, because he just feels like such an important clone at this point, or the way they I like positioned him. Yeah. He feels like he's so important that he had to have had like a story or something before. But
I want to see more Hauser in this episode, because that's in this series, because I liked him. I really liked how he was trying to navigate the situation without giving in, and also like I said, to say to the evil occupiers to go, okay, look, seriously guys, I totally want to see your side of this, but the basics of this are that they're going to rebel against you, and they're going to blow up your Death Star someday if you're not careful.
Exactly. So I don't remember much else, but I believe this episode just pretty much ends with them capturing Gobi and Hera and all them, and Cham and his wife, and then they're kind of taken away. And I can't remember if there was anything else. I know. Crosshair was like floating around here and there.
He was floating. He shot down. He shot down a ship with one bullet. That was that cool ship I was talking about. I think he shot that down. Yeah, he was flitting around the edges of this one, causing some trouble. Man, I love a good Crosshair close up with the helmet on, and they just give him these long close ups, and you're like an expressionless stormtrooper helmet. It's just so cool. Yeah, I do love the character of Crosshair. I mean, I really hope we get him back to the good side again, because he might be my favorite Bad Batch member. He's just such a classically drawn badass from action movies, you know. That I want to see his attitude on the good side. So
exactly, and
hanging out with
and I know we get a little bit more of him in this next episode too, but. I take it back. I believe Hera. I forget how, but I believe Hera got away. It's been like a week since I watched this episode, so
I just watched it, but I do forget where one ends because I watched them both in a row, like in the last hour. So I do forget when one begins. But we can get to. Oh, let me say one more last thing about this episode because it does come back in the next episode too. Is Hera's theme. It has a lot of Princess Leia in it. I'm a fan of John Williams and have even worked for the man. And the Princess Leia theme in Hera's theme, it tries not to go fully close to but it's all there. You could basically take the peaks of Princess Leia's theme and just play the top notes of it or something. I don't speak music, but and you get Hera's theme, which is like, you know, and maybe in the next episode, she sends a hologram saying that's the next episode, saying to Amiga, "You're my only hope," which is, I shouldn't say exactly that, but come on. We all know what's going on here, and we're hearing the Princess Leia-esque theme, and when it'll come back in the next episode, and I'll bring it up when we bring it up, but it's a very lilty, light thing, and anytime Hera makes a move, starting to learn to fly or anything, you get a little of that theme, which is really nice. And the best place it's used, and the best shot of this episode, I would say, is when she lays in the field and she looks up at the clouds and she does with her hands. I mean, it's really beautiful in an animated show to just stop down for a beautiful moment like this. She does a ship with her hands across the sky, which is just like, that's her version of Luke Skywalker looking at the two suns, you know? It's like just looking up, imagining of a day where you can be up there, you know, flying, and then two stormtrooper helmets come into the frame, and you're like, I think the entire episode in the mood of it was set in that one shot of like beautiful day on Ryloth, you know, dreaming, you know, free, and then just these two stormtrooper helmets come in and just wreck. I mean, they arrest her, they take her away. That's what leads to everything else. So and that was a moment where they played that Princess Leia-esque Hera theme, which is really just positing, saying this is your new rebellion leader of this series, from what I can see.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up too, because I remember hearing that song and I was like, I've heard this track somewhere before, and I can't remember if that was her theme in Rebels also, or if it was just the fact that it sounded so close to Leia's theme. I was like, "What is this Leia's theme? Let me look up Leia's theme real quick. Let me hear that again." And I was just trying to find it.
I would be curious if that was in Clone Wars, because that music is a lot more plain. The music became way more Star Wars in Rebels, and now Bad Batch has eased off of how Star Wars it was in Rebels, but it still has a lot more Star Wars. And it's like the range and tones of the music, you know? It's like, it's that high flute. That's why you go, oh, Princess Leia's theme, you know? And it goes other places, but it's like they pick that exact note you would hear at the beginning of Princess Leia's theme with the flute, just to get you in that mind. And then they try and take it other places and stuff. And they do take it someplace pretty spectacular in the next episode, which we can get to.
Yeah. So that's what's great. I mean, we know Hera gets away. Hera somehow is able to escape with Chopper and is, that's kind of where we leave off with that episode. We get into this next episode, though, Rescue on Ryloth.
Yes.
And we see that Hera... Yeah.
No, which is a proper Star Wars title. Rescue on Ryloth, Attack of the Clones, like that. I like Rescue on Ryloth is a real Star Wars title.
I can just hear the narrator, Rescue on Ryloth.
Captured.
Captured. Cham Syndulla. Yeah.
Cham Syndulla, Senator of Ryloth. I love that guy. Is that Tom Kane?
Tom Kane, yeah.
We really are missing Tom Kane in the Bad Batch.
It's true. We got that great first episode, but after that, kind of they transitioned off of it.
They did do Tom Kane in the first episode, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this though, because like you were bringing up, we have the shades of Leia with her sending off that message to Omega and the Bad Batch, doing the "You're my only hope, Omega." Like I thought I was like, I see what you're doing.
And the Hera theme appears when she's in Princess Leia's theme. As soon as that, General Kenobi, years ago, you served my father in the Clone Wars. That Princess Leia theme, or as soon as Luke triggers it. Sorry, that's the part from the Obi-Wan thing. But as soon as Luke triggers it, Princess Leia theme, just that little flute part comes in. So it's right here that this is our Princess Leia. This is our rebellion leader of this show.
I was like, where's that image or video of George Lucas going, "It's like poetry, it rhymes."
Right.
That's the meme I need for this moment.
Yeah. And by the way, Paul Preston just sent me a clip of someone recording a documentary on maybe you've seen this clip. I'm behind on a lot of these things, but and this guy walking down the street, this is a total tangent, audience, and he's talking about molten salt. This is the weird thing. It's like he's on this weird topic. He's walking down Michigan Avenue in Chicago, which is where Lucas's son was going to college. So Lucas was seen in Chicago a lot, and that's why he wanted to put his museum there too. Okay. But so and I heard from a lot of friends in Chicago that you would run into George Lucas for a while there because I think his son went to U of C. So you would maybe the film school there. But so you would run into a lot of people ran into George Lucas on Michigan Avenue or whatever. And so this guy's just walking, doing a documentary, and just randomly, like, George Lucas walks behind him and sees there's a camera and then just keeps on walking. But this guy has no idea. He's doing this whole documentary on molten salt. And he's like walking down Michigan Avenue. He's like, and when the salt is in the molten state, and just like George Lucas goes, and then walks away.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Garth's seen it.
Yeah. George Lucas walks behind us. Yeah.
We'll include the link somewhere.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's really funny.
Can you imagine, like, you go back and you watch that footage later and, like, you realize that George Lucas was in your video?
Blow your mind! You're like, all right, well, let me edit down the 4 hours of talking about molten salt on Michigan Avenue, and it's, what the... Yeah. Anyway, back to the show. George Lucas is not a tangent, of course, but...
It's related. So... We have this message sent to the Bad Batch, and this was an interesting one for me because it's like, okay, we got the Bad Batch back. We're back with them again. We see them kind of flying around, and Omega has such a good heart. This young lady's got such a good heart in her. She sees someone in need, and she's like, we got to go help them. Yeah, and I love that. This is actually why I was super on board with Omega's character pretty much from the beginning. I know a lot of people were probably like, is this kid character who's just going to be hanging around and doing things with the badass crew.
Ordinarily, it's a total nuisance. Like the little girl in The Lost World Jurassic Park. It's like just there to be a girl gets in trouble, But yeah, this one was different from the start, and I felt the family aspect from the start. And the family aspect gets a boost in it because she even says, she just wants to help her family like I would help mine, and referring to the Bad Batch. I thought that was a cool line too,
Yeah, especially when like later on she has that conversation and she refers to the Bad Batch as her brothers. And I didn't stop to think about that for a second. It's like, I've been going off this Hunter is dad and Wrecker's fun uncle and the other two are there. And I didn't go off the idea that, no, technically, based on how the clone ship works, they're siblings, more or less.
They are siblings. Yeah. She has to explain that to Hera. She's like, oh, yeah, they're my brothers. It's like, oh yeah. Yeah, they are, aren't they?
Yeah. So it's So she's hanging out with her older siblings, and it's kind of like a situation where parents aren't around anymore, and so older siblings have to take care of the younger sibling, kind of a situation. So I was like, oh, that's a neat way of looking at it.
Yeah.
But I like this because, Omega's the juxtaposition of her with them. They are, hardened, war-torn, soldiers. They only know their battles. That's the life they've always known, and the only life they've known. And Omega is someone who brings that kindness and that look at the larger picture, have some compassion kind of a viewpoint. And I think that's just, as we're seeing in this episode, I think that's such a great inclusion for the Bad Batch themselves. Kind of breaks down the bad part of the Bad Batch a little bit. And we really see it like come through here with, Hera's like in trouble and Omega's like, no, we got to help her.
Yeah. I mean, the Bad Batch is learning constantly. Their world was upended, a scant 11 episodes ago. And, they're still learning things like these little lessons that are being taught by her. There's a line I wrote down, and I forget who says this. I've seen how you treat your allies. I prefer to be your enemy. Is that Cham that says that? I
see how you treat your allies. I prefer. No, that is prefer to be your enemy. That is Cham.
Yeah, that's a great rebel line, isn't it?
It's either Cham or his wife. Actually, it might have been his wife who said that. Yes, it was his wife. It was Rampart was talking to them while they were in the cell, and he was trying to reach out to. I can't remember her name. I hate that. I'm blanking on her name.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Mama Syndulla.
Mama Syndulla. Hera, Cham. I don't have her name written down.
So Rampart was talking to her, and she was saying, he's like, you're the reasonable one here, so I'm going to talk to you. And she's like, I've seen how you treat your allies. I'd rather be your enemy.
Yeah.
And I was like, oof. And then his only response, oh, have it your way. Yeah. That's all you can say to that. It's like, okay.
So then, Hera and Omega are the ones that come up with the plan to free her parents, which is kind of cool. It's like they're running the show in a weird way.
Garth is asking, so as siblings, which two are the Bad Batch are Chris and Robert?
Oh, there you go. There's the question of the episode.
I'd like to think...
Chris?
Which one am I? I don't know. I like to think I'm a part Hunter. I'm part Hunter, part Echo.
Okay.
I think. But I think my brother is more halfway between Wrecker and Tech.
I'd buy that. I think I can...
Take that what you will. That means whatever you think it means.
Yeah.
Watch him. Actually, I've been clicked on watching this entire time. Anyway, just no idea what that means. Anyway, yeah. Here's parents. There it is.
Elaine. I mean, they must. I don't think they ever said that in these episodes.
Elaine.
Elaine.
I don't.
Mama Syndulla rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, I like Mama Syndulla.
That's a good.
So Bad Batch swoop in here, meeting up with Hera and Chopper, and are saying, why should we do this? There's a million. I like Hunter's line. There's like a million people who are in need across the entire galaxy. We can't help everybody, and which is a very practical. I get it. That makes sense.
Yeah, everything's falling apart. Everybody needs help now. So what are we going to do about it? Which is the Han Solo approach to the rebellion, when he's asked by Princess Leia and Luke Skywalker join the rebellion, it's like, no, I got other stuff to do. Like that it's more like suicide. Attacking that battle station is not my idea of heroism. It's more like suicide or something like that.
Exactly.
So
I like this part here though, because you always have the Bad Batch coming in. They, again, like we said, they're soldiers. That's all they've ever known. So they're kind of focused solely on what's practical. What do we do to survive this? And we're just trying to make it through and not get caught, not get whatever. Yeah. And so, why would we want to wrap up in an Imperial occupation and release prisoners from, the Empire? That seems like the exact opposite of something that would be beneficial for us to do right now.
Well, here's the thing. Just like Han Solo, they're slowly getting pulled into. I mean, the rebellion is slowly building, and what's fun is we're watching all these building blocks to the rebellion.
Yeah.
All these moves, and what causes the rebellion when you're on a planet and it becomes occupied. Yeah. So we're watching. So I mean, we're watching the Bad Batch, which are Han Solo type characters, rogues, scoundrels, pirates. And we're watching them get slowly turned by their Princess Leia, Hera Syndulla and Omega. So it's really fun echoes. Yes, it definitely rhymes, George.
It's definitely like poetry.
And Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the big thing they have to do here is they have to take down all the autocannons, which is what had to happen on the surface of the Death Star. I think that had to happen on the surface of the Dreadnought at the beginning of Last Jedi. So this is good Star Wars stuff. You take down the autocannons, you take down the main guns, then you're face to face with these people. If you don't take those down, you're just going to get mowed down. Nobody's going to save anybody. So that's their first plan, and I think that's the one that's hatched by Omega and Hera, which is so cool. They're little rebels. They should call this Lil Rebels when they spin it off. LIL' Rebels.
Lil Rebels. It's like on was it Nick Jr. or something?
Right, Lil Rebels on Nick Jr.
So it's great because you have like Chopper down there is doing his thing, and then we kind of fast forward through the piece, obviously, where the Bad Batch decides, okay, I guess we will do this because it's the right thing to do here.
Yeah, there's some debate. Omega is running the show now on that ship. Whatever she says, they do, basically. I mean,
that's the way it seems.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's some debate after that, and then they decide, okay. But I mean, and we did talk about some of the things that convinced them. She's like, that's her family, you're mine. You would do this for your own. And this is even before they realized Crosshair's down there. That pretty soon it's going to become personal to them in a way too, because that's their family member as well.
Yeah, and then obviously Crosshair is aware of them now because there's that probe droid and everything that kind of, which I love. We're talking about like Star Wars, talking about things that we've seen in Star Wars before that keep showing up and having like, opportunities to just be in the larger universe is the probe droid from back in episode 5. Just that little probe droid that you saw on Hoth that one time that I remember having the figure of, the toy of somewhere, and you could have you hit the little tab and the whole thing just kind of blows up or whatever. It was such a cool little toy.
Yes, I love probe droids. I think they're the coolest looking thing. They got all these random eyes and a big eye and all these little weird things and antenna and that language they speak. Yeah. We even get a little of that in this. And by the way, after we've seen so many other droids and stuff, that can be reprogrammed and things like that. I realize now I want in one of these shows a pet probe droid that's been, like somebody's Chopper to be a probe droid. I mean, imagine running into a space pirate instead of a Chewbacca. He's got a probe droid. I mean, he's got all these arms and stuff. Probe droids must be able to do all kinds of stuff. They're just using for these one thing. They fire out of a rocket. They land on planets. They burst. They got all this cool stuff. I want to see a tame probe droid that speaks that language, and then the person goes, "Oh, I see what you mean." EC 405 or whatever.
Yes. Go do my dishes. Go do my laundry, probe droid.
And they got that spinning head and stuff. I just love probe droids. But they cite they're all doing some sneaking around, and I love Chopper sneaking around. I mean, Chopper does some great sneaking around at the top of this. He runs into the file with a bunch of other droids. I like seeing droids running around the base anyway, but pretends to be one of them, almost like Indiana Jones putting on the Nazi uniform and just stepping in a line, and nobody knows, notices any different, or, Luke and Han as stormtroopers. But I love that. All that sneaking around with Chopper is so fun.
And then
he couldn't turn off the autoguns. That was the thing. He's not that great a droid even now.
He can handle himself for like a distraction maybe, but don't try to actually give him some practical job to do, because he's probably not going to be able to do it quite yet.
Yeah, exactly.
I love this side.
He's got some growing up to do.
Omega paid off all their debt. She is the boss now. She owns the company.
She paid off their debt. Oh my God, they got to do it. Well, she didn't hold that over their heads. She went for the emotional strings. You're right though. She could have pulled that right up on them. Like, no, dude, guys, you owe nobody anything because I paid off your debts with my gambling.
I'm saying honestly, like you just said that she's not holding it over their heads. She's going to be an incredibly competent and amazing leader in one of these future stories. I'm telling you, she's going to grow up and she's going to be a character that everyone's going to just love to watch.
We're seeing a lesson in every episode. Like, as much as, like, we know Hera Syndulla, so we go, ooh, she gonna learn how to fly. Ooh, she gonna learn how to rebel. You know, it's just like that episode, you know, the prequel trilogy thing is like, ooh, he's gonna learn how to use a lightsaber. You know, like, but we're seeing that with Omega, but it's a character we don't know yet. But she has done just as many movements. She's learning heroism. She's learning how to be a gambler. I mean, she's like learning Han Solo stuff. She's learning all kinds of stuff. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And now she just walks around with a bow strapped to her back. And you could easily see this character showing up fully formed, 5 years of Star Wars time down the line. You know, person walks off a ship with a eye patch and a bow and arrow and all that stuff, you know. But it's cool. It's watching her build who she is, you know. She's gonna be a great character in season 3.
I honestly, I cannot wait for like older Omega who's just running around with that bow and arrow. It's just like we've got like Hawkeye and soon to be Kate Bishop in the Marvel universe, and now we're gonna have the Star Wars version of that in Omega, and that's
really the first bow and arrow character in Star Wars. There's a bowcaster, but that just fires bolts. The rest of that's for decoration. The fact that it looks like a Wookiee bowcaster, he never has to cock that thing back. That just fires lasers. I mean, you could put that little bow thing on top of any rifle and call it a bowcaster, but she's got an actual bow. First one in Star Wars. Laser swords, laser guns, laser bow. It's pretty radical.
I'm for it. Like, I love this. Garth says, I imagine they build up Omega as a character, and then she shows up in Book of Boba Fett. Yes, please.
That's a natural.
Yes, please.
That's a natural. Boba Fett's the alpha. They established that. Boy, they dropped that information real slight. Anybody else who doesn't really think too hard about this stuff like we do, just dropped, it's the alpha was Boba Fett. No, it's like the alpha was Jango's son, you know, and she's the Omega, and you're like, oh, she's a Boba Fett.
Yeah, it's like an unaltered clone.
Definitely showing up in Boba Fett.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good.
And she will. She'll be that cool adult with a bow and arrow and all the other stuff she's going to gather throughout this season, next season, you know.
I love that they're setting up stuff that we're like, oh, there's going to be some really cool Star Wars coming down the line here.
I know, man.
Yeah.
This is the slowest these characters will ever be in some ways, because Star Wars is not afraid to take some time to build it up. Look at the first season of Clone Wars. It's just kind of some basic adventures and fun, and boy, it just once it starts rolling down that hill, we're getting into deep mythology, big battles, big mythology. So this show's just getting started. This is the least they will ever do in terms of mythology. That's crazy to think.
And Garth also says the first bow in Star Wars is Bo-Katan. Okay, Garth. All right.
Aha.
Okay.
Is that from a book? Is Bo-Katan from a book? Oh, Bo-Katan. I know Bo-Katan.
Bo-Katan. Yeah. Okay. It's a bow. I get it. Aha. Good one. So where were we at?
Chopper sneaking. Yeah. So they're trying to turn off the guns. Chopper can't do it. Chopper does some fun sneaking around. And then Omega gets the idea of like, all right, well, there's another way to skin that rabbit. Let's just go steal a ship. You said you wanted to learn how to fly. Let's go do that. And so it's the Goonies now. Like, let's steal a ship.
Yeah, just throw you in the ocean, swim. You want to learn how to fly? Let's just fly. Let's just do it. Let's do the thing. That was really cool because they're flying around and causing a distraction and whatnot over there. And this is where stuff starts picking up, because obviously Hunter and I believe Echo, or is it Hunter and Wrecker? I think it's Hunter and Wrecker. They're sneaking in.
They're climbing the outside of the outside wall, which is fun. A little ascension gun action, climbing the wall, Batman style, Batman 66 style.
They're sneaking in to try to get Cham and Eleni, and I guess Gobi out of the prison, try to free them.
Yeah.
And so everyone's like focused on what's this happening out here on the cargo area or whatever. What's happening out there with the ships, and only one person is like, no, there's something else going on. They're not trying to hit this area. I know what's happening here.
That's a cool moment. Yeah, it's Crosshair. That's a cool moment. He's smarter than the average bear. He's like, no, I'm a master tactician. That explosion is not what we need to run for. Everybody hang back. That's not where they're coming in. There's where they're coming in. That was a cool moment. That's why I love Crosshair. I think that's like this. We haven't seen Crosshair for a few episodes, but I love Crosshair the whole time, and I'm like, he's my favorite member of the Bad Batch. As evil as he is right now, just really like that guy.
He's just an incredibly intelligent, like you said, tactician.
Yeah.
Really smart. Oh yeah.
But before he does that moment, they do blow up the power cell for the guns. Mm-hmm. So when they steal this shuttle, they blow that up, and that is the moment where they bring back Hera Syndulla's theme in a glorious orchestra crash version of it. So it's got all these light flute notes, much like Princess Leia's theme. And when it comes time, da, 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 and we get her theme crashing like that when she blows up that. She has her first flight, her first victory. She fires her first gun, and she basically saves the day by taking down all the guns. It's a huge heroic moment. It's like the line in Rogue One. Well, you're a rebel now. You just stole a ship and blew up an Imperial installation. You're a rebel now.
Yep.
But they really celebrate that with that theme coming back. Big. So I love that moment. It's great.
That's our big first moment with Hera that we know will come to fruition later on in Rebels.
It's her first step to a larger world.
You said the thing. There it is.
I've seen a few Star Wars.
I've seen a few Wars in the Stars there.
I've been known to Star War.
So the other big piece here is that we're getting, we're seeing the flipping of Hauser, and he's trying to. We talked about this before, but he's trying to like figure out how he can maneuver around the whole situation while also,
trying
being
to play
loyal.
politics, and it ain't working.
He's trying to be loyal to Cham, but also trying not to, get into trouble or anything. So,
and he incites a mini rebellion. He asks all of his fellow. Well, actually, let's take a step back here, because I believe when Crosshair says, "No, that's the distraction. That's where we should be looking," where he points their attention to is where Hauser comes out, right?
Yeah,
which is another distraction, which means that Crosshair has been bested because they get away while that's happening, which is kind of cool. Crosshair's like, no, over there, and that's where Hauser comes out. Meanwhile, the other people are escaping. So that's, Hauser sacrifices himself so everybody else can get away.
Yeah, and that leads me to hoping that we see more from Hauser later on.
Yeah.
Obviously, like we didn't see him, taken out, so he's going to be alive. He's just
arrested for
he's
reason.
Just arrested.
And I'd say the same thing to Hauser. You're a rebel now. I mean, he walked out and he told all the stormtroopers, like, put down your weapons. Like, this is not our way. And some put their weapons down, and then others came and arrested him. And it was like, wow, you're a rebel now, Hauser.
Yeah. Which I think is actually like, so you see, first of all, Hauser doing this is not a good look for clones when the Empire is already thinking about moving off of clones and moving towards, recruits. So this is
probably... will take this example and further say, enough of the clones. There's another one. You got a bunch running around out there, and now you got another one. They're all going to rebel if you're not careful.
Yeah, so it's easier if we just recruit people who are just naturally going to be in line with what we want, because they have to be if they're going to get recruited. Whereas we have people who are already in here who could turn on us at a moment's notice. No, we're done with clones. Let's get the recruits in here. Hauser's going to be like one of the big examples as to why they're probably going to do that flip here very soon.
Mm-hmm. We are seeing the intermedium between clones and stealing children and indoctrinating them, which we're also seeing in real time here as they take over each of these planets and force the people into subservience. And they're like, we'll take your kids. We need stormtroopers. Mm-hmm. So cool, right? Can we take your kids?
Yeah, and which leads actually to my next point here, which I think is really great, because you see the same situation happen with Finn in Force Awakens, where he's like, I don't feel right about this. I don't agree with anything I'm seeing. And now you have the example of Finn being the first one that we've seen in like any kind of major Star Wars medium.
Yeah.
Of a recruited soldier going, no, nope, I'm not on board with this.
Such a radical move in The Force Awakens. People forget how much radical stuff is in well, not Star Wars fans, but, casual fans just don't realize just how radical. They're like, they flew ships down a trench. It's just like Star Wars. Like, guys, there's a whole lot going on here. You get, that moment, first of all, the handprint on, well, now I'm going to go off on Force Awakens. But anyway, it's just, that whole thing, the idea of a defecting stormtrooper, it's like, wait, what is that? I thought they were clones. And then they cover all that in The Force Awakens. Well, these people were taken from birth, trained from birth. Maybe we should go back to a clone army. That's a joke in The Force Awakens. And now, in classic Star Wars fashion, we're going back and seeing the transition from clones to indoctrinated soldiers. So it's just so cool. I love the cart before the horse aspect of Star Wars. And when you include the extended universe, like in the Bad Batch and Rebels and everything, it's like it ties so many threads together. It's so great.
Yeah. And again, we talk about the George Lucas, it's like poetry thing. I just love the moments that we see that happen. And this was just another one for me that's like, oh, this is the same thing like Finn and all that. Then, of course, we have obviously Hauser doing the distraction. The Bad Batch gets away, and you see that look on Crosshair's face as he realizes that they escaped him. And what I love about that is the next scene we see Crosshair going to Rampart, and Rampart's like, that crew that you've been talking to me about and warning me about this entire time, that I've been kind of like, I'm not worried about them. Right. Now I'm worried about them.
Yeah, that's right. There were other times where they're like, shouldn't we go after the Bad Batch? And that who's that guy's name? Rampart.
Rampart, yeah.
Yeah, come on, Rampart. Yeah. They've asked that before of like, shouldn't we go after these guys? And he's like, whatever. It's a bunch of, we got bigger fish to fry. And at the end of this episode, it's like, okay, these guys keep screwing everything up. So are you sure we shouldn't put the entire Empire after going after them? Which is obviously what the Bad Batch was worried about. They're like, look, we can't go expose ourselves. And now, for the good, for the rebellion, basically, that's not why they did it, but for the good of the rebellion, they interfered in this, and you're a rebel now. Now if they hadn't done this, if they'd let Hera and Mama Syndulla rot in that prison, they would be scot-free, just living at the Bosque Bar on whatever. But now it's gonna get real tense. Now the whole Empire is gonna be after them. Now we've been waiting the whole season for this. The whole Empire is gonna go after them, and it's gonna be very similar to the Rebels in Episode 4.
Well, I loved it because this is the scene that I feel like we've kind of been waiting for here, which is Rampart telling Crosshair, "Yep, you can now feel free to chase them all you want. You can go after them. I don't need you here anymore. Your mission is now go hunt down Clone Force 99." And that, I think, is what's going to lead us through these last 4 episodes I believe we're getting, which is going to be a whole lot of fun Crosshair going after the Bad Batch.
Right. And now it's on. Now it's totally on. But, everybody's grown and learned. They're different people than they were at the beginning. And the Bad Batch is part of the rebellion. This is, by the end of this thing, Wrecker and Mon Mothma are going to be in the same frame talking about stuff. They're going to have to go full rebel now and hopefully get Crosshair back in the process, because I really do like Crosshair.
I think they will. I think they are going to get Crosshair back. I don't think Crosshair is going to, because the whole setup and everything that we know about the chip and the brains of the clones is that they are pretty much forced to do something without their consent. Essentially, they're being forced to do these things.
Yeah, exactly. Crosshair has a theme too. I wrote this down. Hunt them down. But yeah, Crosshair, I didn't realize this whole time Crosshair's got his own theme. The composer, there was a kind of a cool Crosshair theme at the end there too. At the very end, as they're like, all right, Crosshair. That might be where we got that close-up that I was talking about. It's just the eyes. I mean, it's Dave Filoni obviously loves a spaghetti western, and and we pointed out in a previous episode when they had a full spaghetti western gun shootout that the editing of it from wide to close to closer to closer was exactly mimicked from Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And so I think but doing a close up of a stormtrooper mask and expression is just, I just love that. Dave Filoni really gets the Western aspect of this sort of stuff.
Especially because like they're emotionless masks, you don't see anything, but when you bring the music in behind it and you do the sudden intense camera angle on them, you get that emotion from the mask, even though you got nothing there. And it's like I look at Crosshair's helmet and everything, and I'm like, ooh, that's terrifying. This scares me.
Yeah.
And he's not doing anything.
He's got the little Boba Fett finder. I love the Boba Fett finder. That's the coolest thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so near and dear to my, like, Boba Fett is so near and dear to my heart. Everything Boba Fett is so great that Crosshair is my favorite character in this, regardless. The fact that he has the little Boba Fett rangefinder, I'm like, this character is so great, so intense.
And just to think like where this show could be going and what they could be doing is that we could still even get Boba Fett, who we've already gotten back in live action now. We could still get Boba Fett back in animated form popping up in this show still. I mean, there's room for a teenage, maybe early 20s Boba Fett, however old he is at this time, popping up here.
Yeah, would he be the same age as Omega, or is he older than
He's
her,
older.
I guess? Yeah, okay.
I think he's definitely older.
Yeah, we could have a baby Fett in this, a little Bobby Fett,
a little Bobby Fett. Because his age thing is unaltered, so he actually aged normally. So he should be, probably late teens, maybe early 20s at this point. Wow, don't really know.
Yeah. We're gonna get so much more Boba Fett. I never knew that in my life we'd be getting this much Boba Fett. Seeing that shot of him sitting on that throne that people post all the time, I'm like, oh my god.
It's funny too, because prior to the last season of Mandalorian, we were all sitting there going, will we ever see Boba Fett in anything again? He's this mysterious character that everyone just naturally flocked to. He's this badass character, and then all of a sudden now the world of Boba Fett is completely open, and we know that we're getting to get a ton of Boba Fett.
I thought there was zero chance of seeing Boba Fett because I knew they had developed a Boba Fett movie. And that then they decided to not make movies, which is too bad. The Boba Fett movie was going to be by James Mangold, who's now doing Indiana Jones 5.
That would have been good too.
Did Walk the Line, the Wolverine, Logan. So when The Mandalorian happened, I was like, obviously that's the development track of Boba Fett. They just went, nah, let's... because sometimes like, do we want to make a Luke Skywalker movie? It's like, no, that is a lot of pressure. That's what's the balls of making a solo movie. They're like, no, we'll make a Baru movie, but we'll have baby, Luke Skywalker or whatever, Mm-hmm. That's just the way they do it to get around the tremendous pressure of having a huge part of the IP. But so I thought there was no chance we'd ever see Boba Fett. And I was like, no, they tried to... Somebody even asked me when that first started, they're like, do you think Boba Fett will be in this? I go, absolutely not, because they started developing a Boba Fett TV show or a movie, and that turned into this. They just made this Boba Fett this new character so that they wouldn't have to mess with the mythology of Boba Fett. They could create all new mythology for Din Djarin or Jin Djarin. But so I was really shocked when Boba Fett showed up. I was like, oh, I did not see that coming. I literally did not see that coming in a Boba Fett TV show. Right.
And I just, Garth said, Crosshair may enlist help from some hired help with bounty hunters and mercenaries like Boba Fett. Ooh. I can see that happening.
Ooh, you think we're going to go bounty hunter to try and track these guys down? I mean, they got the whole empire on their tail.
Who are these bounty hunters you want to see come back in again?
Well, I know we got Cad Bane floating around out there, right?
But, Cad Bane's floating around?
It's countdown to Dengar. That's all I'm saying. Countdown to
Dengar. Zuckuss.
Countdown to Zuckuss. Yeah, you're right. Zuckuss. Sorry, I want to see Zuckuss. I said Dengar earlier. Zuckuss is the one I really want to see an adventure of. Zuckuss and 4LOM. They've had no screen time. They would just show up in that one shot, and nobody. There's now almost a rule in Star Wars. You can't just show up once.
No.
You could show up once. 35 years later, you're going to get a storyline in one of these extended things, Like
a whole 2-episode arc.
I'd never seen a Bosk show up again until Mandalorian. I was like, there's a boss and an IG-88. an IG unit. So I'm like, that's IG and Bosk have shown up. Countdown to Zuckuss.
Well, that's the great thing too, is because we have seen Bosk and Dengar working with Aura Singh in the Clone Wars.
Oh, that's right, with Baby Fett.
With Baby Fett, yeah. And that was a lot of fun. So, I mean, these characters, obviously we know these characters pop up in Empire Strikes Back, so there's a world where we see these guys pop up literally anywhere, whether this show or they pop up in Book of Boba Fett, and I'm for whatever it is they want to do at this point. They want to put them wherever they want, go for it.
Ooh, it's so exciting. It's a whole open world. Get him, Dad.
Yeah.
Boba, back your things.
Dad, Ton Wee's here.
Yep.
So this is what I love about this show. We got 4 more episodes of this show left, and I feel like we've been saying this. The action's about to ramp up, but we also didn't see like Hera popping up, last time we were doing this either. So who knows what's going to happen in these next 4 episodes? I'm excited.
The atmosphere is so good about these Imperial occupations. Like, you just never think, like, what's it like on all these planets where this is happening? Like, after the prequel trilogy, it's like, it still never filled in the gap of, like, what happened between Revenge of the Sith and Episode 4. So, and here it is. Like, here's this atmosphere. It's a tremendous thing that by insinuation of what happened at the end of Episode 3, that this is the world they're in right now. And I just, even with my Star Wars imagination and imagining all the fanciful things that could possibly happen, it's like, yeah, the atmosphere, the dreaded atmosphere of Imperial occupation and the old ways crumbling still, the old ways crumbled huge in the prequel trilogy, but it's still crumbling, for each individual person. It's good stuff.
And I love this storytelling right now. I know we harp on this a lot, and I'm going to keep doing so. I'm not going to say there's like a huge age difference between you and I, but let's be honest about this here. I grew up with the prequel trilogy.
Right.
Obviously, I grew up with the original trilogy too, because it already existed. But
sure,
I grew up with the prequel trilogy.
They had invented VCRs by the time you saw the prequel trilogy. That was helpful.
Exactly.
They had not by the time I had seen the original.
So I got to see, episode 1, 2, and 3 in the theaters, and just enjoyed the heck out of it. But even then, I did not imagine that we would get a bunch of storylines in various locations throughout the galaxy that would connect even more episode 3 to episode 4. But now we're sitting here with, Bad Batch, Rebels. We got that Obi-Wan series coming.
Yeah.
All sorts of stuff that's going to hit those different areas between the two. And my little Star Wars loving brain's like, cool.
Oh, I know. It's so exciting. I never imagined. Well, I don't know if I don't think I've told this story a few times, but I have never told it here, which is, and Garth says he's been a fan since 77, so he will recognize this.
Yeah.
There was a time where they were never going to make Star Wars ever again, and that was just a fact, because they, I had to find out sequels existed when Empire Strikes Back came out. I'm like, they make movies twice? They make wait, these characters I love, they're going to do it again? Yes. And then I'm like, wait, so is there going to be another one? Yes. Is there going to be another one after that? Yes. There was supposed to be another one after that. And there were all the Starlog magazine would tell you all the things that are going to happen in the next episode, at episode 7, when it comes out in 1986 or 1987 or 1988. But then they stopped saying that. They stopped saying that, and then suddenly there was like this recognition of like, oh, they're not going to make these again. Because then you see other movies like they do a trilogy, and that was all you got, and you're like, oh, okay. So they're done making Star Wars. And they started putting out those Timothy Zahn books, and you're like, oh, I see. They're just going to do books, and that's it for Star Wars, and those books are for people who remember Star Wars, which became not an obscure pop culture reference, but it became between friends. You're like, oh, you like Star Wars? Yeah, that's not that common a thing. Oh, that's cool. That thing from a long time ago. So then when they announced the prequel trilogy, I was like, I'll believe it when I see it, and could not believe it when I saw it. When I saw that trailer, I mean, I had heard they were shooting. I had heard the trailer was going to be on Entertainment Tonight. I had heard. And when I went home and I had set my VCR to record Entertainment Tonight so that I could see the trailer for this supposed sequel to Star Wars that I knew was never going to happen, it blew my mind. And then they made 3 more Star Wars movies, and I couldn't believe I was so lucky to have 3 more Star Wars movies, and that was definitely it. That was the last Star Wars movies they were ever ever going to make, and I knew that for sure. So anyway, every day after that has been kind of amazing because they were done in '83. That was it. That was the end of it, and I was positive. And here we are.
I feel like I could wax nostalgic all dang night about that because I remember the first trailer for for Phantom Menace also, and going, "Oh, what? Their Star Wars is coming back again? What?"
That trailer is a masterpiece.
I could go back and watch that trailer and I'd be like, I'm taken right back to my childhood and just the enjoyment of it.
As a fan of Phantom Menace, there is you and I could name 35 shots that we would put in trailer. There is one shot that we would name that's actually in that trailer. It is all atmosphere and mood and the Star Wars theme. That's a great trailer. God, that's a great trailer. Makes me want to go watch the Attack of the Clones trailer. Was that good? I don't even remember. The Phantom Menace was so good. I only remember how good that trailer was.
It really is. It really is like a pretty iconic trailer at this point, I believe. So before we get to plugs and stuff and start wrapping this up, we want to go ahead and play this little clip.
Yeah, I sent you the clip. I mean, this is just so perfect. I love this so much. Listen to what this guy's talking about, having no idea that George Lucas is behind him. Listen to this documentary this guy's doing.
And they use something they call pyroprocessing. The interesting thing is they call it pyroprocessing, but it's a molten salt process. They're dissolving this thing in a molten and they're doing electrochemistry on it. Why don't they call it molten salt? They want no association with molten salt because then it brings up another superior thing molten salt can do.
He's just still going on about molten salt of all topics. Oh my God.
And it wasn't even like George Lucas was like, what's going on? And
yeah.
He was there. He was there that whole time.
Like, oh, and there's a camera. Anyway. And that guy gets home and watches the raw footage.
That is fantastic. I mean, that's a note to end the show off on right there.
I'd say so.
So as we wrap up, Adam, what's going on? Where you at? Where are the people finding you and all the stuff you're doing?
You can find me all over right now. I feel like I've done a bunch of shows this week. I forget what other ones I was on, but I was on Video Drew. I was on Nerd Chronic the other night. Last night, sometimes you can pack so much in a day. You're like, what day is it?
Exactly.
Even when it's not quarantine, I'm like, it's Saturday, right? Okay. But yeah, no. So I played some Ghostbusters trivia on Nerd Chronic the other night, and I got to. You can catch me in the Schmodown, and of course, if you're a fan of Harrison Ford, and if you're watching this show, how could you not be? And you're interested in the entire career of Harrison Ford, Paul Preston and I, the movie guys, are endeavoring to the easiest task on earth, to watch every single Harrison Ford movie from the very beginning in a row, and a harder task editing us talking about them, which is why it comes out every 2 weeks now. So Heroes should drop this week. Heroes, have you heard of the movie Heroes, Chris?
I don't know if I have.
No, you haven't. Heroes is one of the first movies to address PTSD for returning Vietnam vets. Oh. And it stars Henry Winkler at Happy Days time. So he's like, all right, I've done the Fonz. I'm going to do something a little serious and dramatic. Came out in 1977, which is and it stars Sally Field, Harrison Ford. Now, can you think of two other movies from 77 that came out with Sally Field and Harrison Ford?
Yeah, maybe a few.
Yeah, it might be Star Wars and Smokey and the Bandit. So this movie was a hit because that came out right on the heels of that. And Harrison Ford now we haven't watched all of Harrison Ford's movies. In fact, we've only watched, this would be 10, I believe. But I dare say he will never have a greater entrance than entering in an orange Corvette, I believe it's a Corvette, and doing a donut while screaming with the words Ace of Spades on the side of his car. That's Harrison Ford in this movie. And it's one of the few times, I can only think of two, Fonz Solo. It's one of the few times we see Harrison Ford do carpentry in a movie. As we know, he was a famous carpenter. And if you type in Harrison Ford carpenter, you will, in the first couple searches, will come up with a shot of him wearing a Napa hat with some nails in his mouth, leaning like a stud. I mean, Harrison Ford is just the shit. But leaning like a total stud, half shirtless, that's from this movie. Never knew that. I've seen that picture for years. So
there you go.
Yeah.
All right, so that'll be a fun episode to listen to then.
Yeah. And Paul and I are going to, talk about it. So that's always
Yeah,
entertaining, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. So guys,
What are you up to?
we're up to a lot here. Well, here's the thing. We're up to a lot, but we're also not going to be up to a lot for the next couple of weeks. You and I are going to do, the next Bad Batch breakdown. But other than that, the Cinefanatics is kind of taking a hiatus on a lot of other stuff that we're doing.
Summer hiatus,
just for a small mental break from a lot of stuff. So our
you
normal
wrapped
show.
up Loki. You'll be wrapping up the Bad Batch, so it's probably a good time for a little break. And you guys got FCL matches to do too. You got some studying to do.
We got to start getting prepared for whatever's coming next for us in the FCL for sure, because we're not done yet. We're not done yet. So
I mean, you guys don't have factions or anything to organize this stuff. So you and your brother could play each other in a competition. I think we'd all watch.
I mean, we'll have to see if that match happens at some point. But the thing is, though, is that we're doing a lot of stuff later on. Once this hiatus is over, we will be doing a bunch of stuff. We're bringing back the tagline, everything on Tuesday nights. That's our normal Tuesday night movie news show that we do live. Not happening this next week, I believe the week after, but just stay tuned to the social medias and you'll find out when we're bringing that one back again. Best place to support us, even during this time while we're taking off a little bit, is patreon.com/ I can never say that, /Cinefanatics. I almost sound like Omega there. Patreon.com/ Cinefanatics. Yeah, we're doing all sorts of stuff over there. You can hop on our Discord, chat with us over there on the Discord, talking about movies and whatnot. We're doing watch-alongs. We'll be having some more of those popping up on Patreon. And then, obviously, the movie trivia nights help us get ready for those FCL matches that are coming up. Always a ton of fun in there. That's all.
Yeah, for guys like you to put out a lot of content, you're just going to, it's like a tip jar too, You don't have to go subscribe at the $100 level, but you could tip these guys out, for all the hard work.
Honestly, that $5 tier is the sweet spot tier for us. So
I have so many. I contribute to a bunch of $5 tiers and sometimes I don't even go on Patreon for a month. I'm just I just support that comedian or whatever,
Right.
So, yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, all that's there. We're going to be doing all sorts of stuff. Again, like I said, we're going to be back not this next Saturday, but like we've been doing every other week or so. We're covering 2 episodes here on the Bad Batch breakdown. So we've got 4 more episodes. So we have 2 more breakdowns to be doing here. And then I believe we will call it a wrap on the Bad Batch. So, I mean, I'll say this has been a ton of fun. I'm excited to do 2 more of these and see what's to come in the future of this show.
Yeah. I mean, it's this the ending of this episode was just all hell's gonna break loose. The next 4 episodes are gonna be there's been a lot of Star Wars so far. It's gonna go full Star Wars.
Yeah, between the Empire making some decisions on some clones and Crosshair going after the Bad Batch, it's gonna get good.
And is Crosshair gonna stay bad at the end of the season, or is that gonna be one of the things that they get him back? I don't know.
Who knows?
Either way, even though he's a bad guy right now, he's my favorite. He's my favorite in the show. I love him. I've loved him since moment 1. He's great.
Yeah.
Jailbreak.
You guys are going to have to
jailbreak.
Stay tuned to the Bad Batch to find out, and then stay tuned to what we're doing here to find out our breakdown of the Bad Batch. And that's always a lot of B words, but.
And the last thing I'll say is, anybody walking down the street, keep your eye over your shoulder. George Lucas might be right behind you.
You never, ever know when George Lucas could show up. Adam, thank you so much for being here again, for bringing this down. And all of you guys watching, thank you so much for joining us and watching along and chatting with us in the chat and all that. We appreciate it, and we will catch you guys.
Thanks for loving Star Wars.
Thanks for loving Star Wars, for sure. We'll catch you guys on the next one. See you later.